Easy now, folks. Look at the day it is here in Scotland. Magic, eh? Anyway, uncharacteristic for me. I had myself a wee few minutes on my hands, so I've got this woods opposite me. There's a hill that goes right up to the next town, right up there, and running the length of my street is this burn. I think you call it a burn anyway. Basically, the water runs down the hill and makes this beautiful little stream the length of my street. So, grabbed myself a pot and a wee net, figured I'd see what I could find. I had one of the kids with me, because they love wee adventures like this, and basically we went for the old tried and tested method of scraping the net across the surface to see what we could find. Once we deposited our catch in the pot, we went for a nice big deep scrape down at the bottom. And we repeated this several times. We had a big 6.5 gallon jar waiting for us at home, so dunked everything in there. And the most obvious thing we could see is these pond skater insects on the surface. They're pretty crazy, pretty active, pretty cool. After that, we had to let the water settle a little bit. It was a wee bit murky, but it didn't take too long for it to start clearing. Right away, we spotted these larvae, I'm going to call them. Look a wee bit like caddisfly larvae, maybe. They're the type that kind of gather debris all around them to protect themselves. I guess it's camouflage as well as protection. I should know better. I knew more about this stuff when I was a kid, but then when I was a kid is the last time I'd done this sort of thing. Took me back a few years. Anyway, it was pretty cool watching them for a while, but the sunlight was pretty bad for getting a good view, and we really wanted the water to settle, so we brought it in. Then we just left it to sit for a couple of hours. The first thing we started noticing moving about as the water did settle was these cute little snails started to appear and make their way up the glass. They kind of reminded me of Malaysian trumpet snails, pond snails and bladder snails. That might even be what they are. I'm going to need to do some research, or if anybody knows, drop it in the comments. Let me know what we found here. I'm pretty sure MTS prefer warmer water, but, you know, might be a Scottish version, not sure. As the water cleared even further, we realised we caught more than we thought at first. The whole jar was teeming with life. We could study these larvae a bit more closely and enjoy some of their interesting behaviour. We watched these two jockeying for position at the top of this stick for ages. As evening set in, we were able to stick a spare aquarium light on the top of the jar, and obviously that made things a lot easier. Much easier to spot what was going on in there. We started to notice these cool little worms sticking themselves up into the water column, and the beauty of looking through the phone now is that we could zoom in and get a really good look. That's when we started to notice a lot more than we could with our naked eye, so that was helpful too. The closer we were able to study them, the more interesting they actually got. In fact, these wee worms were one of the things that we watched for the longest. The more we watched them, the more interested in their behaviour we became. This little guy here couldn't seem to make up his mind which exit of his burrow he wanted to use. He did that for a wee while before he finally picked a route to come out and have a wee explore. Again, it just ended up really fascinating, and we lost the majority of our evening staring into our little jar of wonders. I'm not going to go through everything we found. What I'm kind of getting at is here, if you're looking for a new aquarium experience, got a wee afternoon on your hands, and you want to study something in a tank, or a jar in this case, maybe you don't need to look too much further than your own backyard. If you've got kids, it's a wonderful way to spend an afternoon with them, watching their eyes light up with wonder. There's nothing quite like nature to get their wee imaginations going, but if I'm quite honest, I'm not really sure who enjoyed it the most. Anyway, I'm going to put these guys back and I'm out. Later.